Zidane to reject United, City fight Bayern for De Jong, Barcelona could lose a club captain, and a transfer roundup all coming up in the next few minutes as I'm your host Matt Frodick. You are the One Footballers and this is the Daily News. So first off, and sorry Man United fans for bringing that up again, but there's more fallout from the reaction to the weekend's football where, of course, Manchester United lost 5-0 and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job is literally hanging by a thread. Now, as we spoke about yesterday, there are two big names in contention. One of them is Zinedine Zidane and the other Antonio Conte. And yesterday, reports suggest that Antonio Conte was well aware of interest from Manchester United and he would be willing to talk to the club about the project. The question is, are they going to get rid of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now? It looks as though that if they do, Antonio Conte is probably the only one who's going to be taking the job at this stage of the season. I say so because even though Zinedine Zidane is linked with the job and bringing him to the club will bring in a proven winner and someone who didn't necessarily change the Real Madrid team around too much, so maybe could get the best out of this Man United team without going to spend and bring in a whole new team. Well, it looks as though he may not actually want the job. There have been loads of reports that since leaving Real Madrid, he's enjoying his time off and he looks as though he wants to take over the PSG job or the French job next. So maybe a move to Manchester United isn't exactly on his radar. Certainly not mid-season when they're in a bit of a slump. As for the PSG and French job, well, it looks as though they may not be readily available. Certainly not for the next year or so, but depending on how Mauricio Pochettino does in the Champions League, there could be room for Zinedine Zidane there. Having said that, if Pochettino does get fired from PSG and Zidane takes over, it probably means that Pochettino will be a good fit for Manchester United. But anyway, like I mentioned yesterday with Antonio Conte, his defensive style may not suit Manchester United just yet, but making them difficult to beat will certainly be a good thing for United at the moment. There have been conflicting reports whether or not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be in charge for the Tottenham game, but if he does make it, and if he does manage to turn this around, it'll probably be the greatest saviour of any job role in history. He's literally gone from losing 5-0 at home to Liverpool to somehow managing to stay in the job, let's say, until the end of the season. You'd have to pat him on the back for that one at least. Anyway, moving on and to some potential transfer news, and it involves one of the best midfielders in the world, Frenkie de Jong. Now, he's obviously made a big move to Barcelona, has been one of the shining lights in what has been a difficult few years for the club. But it looks as though he has been garnering some interest from elsewhere, including Bayern Munich and Manchester City. Now, of course, when you're a very, very good midfielder, one of the best in the world, it's obvious that other clubs are going to be interested in you. But in recent years, it seems a little bit unsettling maybe for Barcelona fans that some of their players could be tempted by a move to an even bigger club, because historically, once you join Barcelona, there's not really many ways to go upwards. You're kind of going level to another big team, or you're taking a step down. Anyway, the reason why City and Barcelona would want him is that, well, he's a great midfielder, like I mentioned, especially in Manchester City's case. They may be looking at freshening up the midfield in the years to come. As it stands, they've actually only got 4 central midfielders in the squad, and only one of them is under the age of 30. I'm not saying that 30 is old, and De Bruyne is 30, and I think Gundogan's 31. Fernandinho is going to be 36. It's not ridiculously old, but they may have one eye on the future. And with Rodrigo around 25, 26 years old, Frenkie de Jong could fit into this midfield perfectly. And with the way that he plays being so suited to Barcelona, it's probably also going to be suited to the way that Pep Guardiola plays as well. The obvious problem is that they're going to have to spend quite a lot of money to get him out of his Barcelona contract. It runs until 2026, and despite the fact there have been some financial issues at Barcelona, they're probably not going to be willing to let go to one of their best 3 players. I'm putting Frenkie de Jong in the best 3 at Barcelona. Him along with Pedri and Ansu Fati, surely those 3 are the future of the club, so they're not going to let him go so easily. And I don't think Frenkie de Jong wants to leave at the minute, but looking at the table now, they're in 9th place, and if, I don't know, they fall out of Champions League favour, they don't finish in the top 4, they don't start challenging for any trophies, maybe he will be considering his future at the club. As for Bayern Munich, well, they're a brilliant team with brilliant midfielders, and they could always do with more, so that one kind of makes sense, although I don't necessarily see that happening. Moving on then into a Barcelona midfielder who actually may be leaving, and that is Sergi Roberto. One of the 4 captains at the club is yet to sign a new deal. It runs out next summer, and in all honesty, he's made his debut in 2010, so this will be 11 years, 12 years in the first team at Barcelona. He's never been a starter. Like, I think he's been there and he's been one of the club captains because of all the experience he's got being in and around the squad. But in terms of being a leader on the pitch, he's a utility man. Central midfield, he's great. Right back, he's great. But he's never been the top level. There were rumours a few years ago that I seem to remember United wanted him for around 50, 60 million. I do think that if he was playing at a club where he played more regularly, he would have been a top class midfielder. But For Barcelona, he's just never really been guaranteed a spot in the starting 11, so hasn't exactly become a club icon. Despite this, he obviously is still one of the captains. It would be a big blow to lose him and his personality around the club. On the pitch though, maybe they could do without him. Serginho's Dest looks to be a very good right back and could be one for the future, and as we mentioned in midfield, they've got lots of good young stars, so maybe Roberto isn't exactly needed. He would be kept around in the squad and I'm sure he'd do well, but maybe it's not worth renegotiating a ridiculous contract that could see him paid a lot of money if it means that they're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of money elsewhere. Right then, finally we come to a quick round-up of the rest of today's news that you might have missed, and Chelsea, as it stands, are not interested in signing Saúl Ñíguez on a permanent deal at the end of the season after his loan spell from Atletico Madrid is yet to bear much fruit. Newcastle are set to rival Juventus when it comes to trying to bring in Ousmane Dembele. Boca Juniors and Barcelona will play in a one-off friendly match known as the Maradona Cup to celebrate the life of both of their former club legends. And lastly, but not least, after the success of Jude Bellingham moving from Birmingham to Dortmund, the German club are interested in bringing his younger brother Job, who is currently at Birmingham as well. That's all from me then. Make sure you stick around for loads more OneFootball content.